with you all summer and after rain. With you all
Right now, we're in the midst of yet another inescapable culture war, for lack of a better term. Basically, it goes like this. 1. Big, popular, inescapable thing that the mainstream consensus has deemed important arrives, causing mainstream and social media to focus all its attention on it. 2. Those indifferent or resentful of said thing then express frustration with how thing is so damn popular, or they just go out of their way to say how they don't care about said thing. Either this comes in social media posts, or, if you have the platform, a piping hot take editorial in a publication. 3. Fans of said thing then go on a counter-offensive, expressing frustration for the contrarian group, accusing them of not getting it, or trying to ruin their fun. Meanwhile, the contrarians accuse the masses of pack mentality, or defensiveness over something that doesn't matter, or they double down on why they're correct in saying the thing is dumb and bad. 4. These steps continue for a day or so if it's a major sporting event, or a week or two if it's a film. Now, apply what I've just described to the discussion surrounding Avengers Infinity War, and you've just found your Twitter and Facebook feeds for the last, 5 or 6 or 7 days, whenever the hell I finish this video. Every time Marvel releases a film, especially a huge installment with a lot of hype like an Avengers crossover, we're forced to endure this inane cultural dialogue. A similar situation is when the Super Bowl comes around and you've got all of those "I don't care about sports" tweets. But that usually wraps up when the game itself is concluded. Since Infinity War is a movie, we'll have to put up with this for another week of this nonsense until it fizzles out, and then when Ant-Man and the Wasp comes out in July, we get to put up with it all over again. What's funny is that even though films in the superhero genre have dominated the blockbuster scene since, 1998 with the release of Blade, we've only been subjected to this brouhaha fairly recently, and with only one series, that being the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's 2 reasons, one systemic, the other to do with Marvel itself. 1. We live in an age where even though the internet and social media have enabled us to find the smallest of niches for us to connect and relate to, we still are unable to actually escape the broader conversation going on around us, and we're forced to interact with it. That's the thing people don't get about echo chambers or safe spaces. They don't shield people from the outside world or dissenting opinions. Rather, they just make it easier to find others who share your viewpoint and affirm your beliefs. This is important for, say, marginalized people to defend themselves against outside discrimination, but it ends up making discussion of popular culture an incessant cycle with the same tired cliches. 2. Regardless of any quality or lack thereof in any superhero film series, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has the luxury of being one of the heads of the real-life hydra that is the Walt Disney Company. Disney, more than any other social media conglomerate before or since, is the absolute master of selling itself and saturating the market and culture with itself. It has bought something from every medium and genre and mass-produced it to the point where even if you're completely indifferent to what it's got to offer, you're still compelled to have an opinion on the product because it's all anyone sees or talks about. Since acquiring properties such as Marvel and Star Wars, Disney has commodified them, creating 2 perpetual money-making entities for their own end. Once 2 trilogies with the occasional errant spin-off, Star Wars is now a yearly tentpole. And once a yearly tentpole, Marvel is now a near quarterly miniseries full of events and characters that have connections to other films in the meta-narrative. In the world of blockbusters, momentum is money, and money generates momentum, and Disney has enough continued cash flow to generate all the momentum they want. In the capitalist hegemony, those with the most capital usually keep being on top, meaning theoretically, Disney will keep feeding the public Star Wars and MCU fare for a long time coming, dominating and controlling our cultural conversation while lining their pockets with our cash. And regarding Marvel, yeah, I could see how this would be irritating if you're just not into the conventions of the genre. Just like how I get the frustrations of non-sports fans who don't get how the Super Bowl, an overall meaningless spectacle, compels the masses to pay attention to and talk about it every February. It's amplified with Marvel because, as I've established, the Disney monster adds to it multiple times a year. And it's not like there's nothing to criticize when it comes to this saturation. In a Hollywood where branding and recognizability is more important than quality, Disney is the king of it for all the reasons I've explained. but we must keep in mind that Hollywood's obsession with sequels, reboots, and franchises isn't based on some universal lack of creativity or malicious war against art. In a capitalist system, a company prioritizes the bottom line of itself and its shareholders, and not the intrinsic or artistic worth of anything. At the end of the day, spreadsheets, market research, and charts tell these studios that audiences will pay the most money to see big spectacles that come with the quality assurance of a known brand. Granted, that's how we get great superhero films like Guardians of the Galaxy, but that's also the same system that churns out garbage like Batman v Superman or Suicide Squad. The difference, though, is that those films had no staying power. Everyone had a laugh about how bad BVS and Suicide Squad were. They gave Wonder Woman a shot and that turned out to be good, but they wouldn't be suckered into another Superman and Batman debacle, so they hardly turned out to see Justice League. Warner's DC series is now limping toward a possible reboot, forcing themselves to go back to square one, whereas Marvel will keep raking in the cash, fan support, and critical acclaim. But I think it's those last two that need to be talked about. See, it's no longer an aberration when Marvel makes good films consistently for several years and maintains the same level of investment. At that point, we see a movement, for lack of a better term. Now here's the part where I get all high-minded and support my favorite thing. The fact is, as the meme says, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. Despite Black Panther being very empowering for swaths of marginalized people, it was still a product being sold to us by a monolithic empire that's collecting beloved cultural artifacts for its bottom line. But that having been said, if there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, then the least we can do is try to relish in the few moments of broad connection we can find in its condition. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is something people care deeply about, overzealously at times, but still, it's a meaningful shared experience that transcends race, gender, orientation, and class. When I went to see Black Panther and Infinity War this year, I saw a large, diverse group of people laughing, applauding, and crying together. Back in 2016, the death of Superman, a timeless piece of cultural mythology, was met with utter indifference. This year, the deaths of C-list Marvel characters resulted in loud gasps and tears. That's the difference I feel like Marvel's detractors don't want to admit. It's not the genre that draws people in multiple times a year. It's the shared experience, the journey these films take people on together. Now I'm really cranking up the cheese. For a brief period, we forget our divisions and antagonisms and watch characters we love, hate, and identify with continue a story many of us have been following for years. It's the same with Harry Potter, Star Wars, or any other inescapable series. I personally don't give a shit about either Harry Potter or Star Wars, but to act like they're not important and positive parts of our culture is, well, silly and short-sighted. I really wish I had a nice bow to wrap up everything, but the fact is I wrote this a few hours ago to organize my thoughts on an internet argument, and then it turned into a treatise on capitalism or whatever. But, you know, that's just me. I guess all I can do is offer advice to people on both the Marvel and anti-Marvel bandwagon. For both sides, I'll just say, let's not be dicks. This especially goes to the people on the pro-Marvel side. If you see someone expressing snark about Marvel or superhero movies, just let it go. It's not worth turning their mentions or comment sections into trash piles of cyclical arguments I talked about earlier. And obviously, if you're someone who doesn't care about Marvel, but chooses to go to others who do and tell them that they're dumb or sheep for liking it, you're usually a dick and no one should talk to you. For Marvel fans, just keep in mind, although we may like certain products of the system, that shouldn't preclude us from criticizing the system. The MCU is a diamond in the rough of Hollywood, but that doesn't mean we can't demand better from Hollywood, nor does it mean we can't think critically of how we contribute to systems that continue to produce garbage. And for non-Marvel fans, I would just say to keep an open mind. Marvel isn't just some nerdy curiosity, it's a worldwide beloved brand. As I talked about earlier, it's something people of all stripes care deeply about and share with passion and love. You don't have to care about the thing itself, but I think you can appreciate that something is, at the very least, bringing people together like that. We don't get many opportunities in this day and age. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate you liking, sharing, and subscribing. I had a lot of fun making this one.